if we are diligent, the opportunities that exist for you and I and others that live in this day and age, I consider that, it's something that I carry out of gratitude. I'm just so grateful that we can live when we live, where we live, with the opportunities and the information that's out there. It's really overwhelming.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Anchoring Hope, where we're shining the light of leaders in faith, people that are in business and that are empowered by the commission that the Lord has given them in their life to run their businesses and provide employment for other people. So in this case, we have Mark Borge in our show today. Mark, welcome to the podcast. It's a blessing to have you with us. Please tell us your whole name and where do you live?
Well, certainly, and thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be on your show. My name is Mark Borge. I live in Hazlet, Texas, which is in Northwest Fort Worth.
Have you ever been there, Mark, your whole life, or?
Well, I was born in Fort Worth, and my two daughters were born in Fort Worth, so I think that makes me a genuine Fort Worth homer. But my wife drags me out the door every now and again to go on vacation.
That's good, Mark, because for a lot of the people that are having all my podcasts, most of them, they travel because of business and they move around at least 3 or 4 times in their lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm very happy to have roots here. My parents are still with us. Julie's parents are still with us. And as long as they are, and as long as we can take up a role in taking care of them, we're probably not going anywhere, except when Julie drags us away on vacation.
That's awesome. Mark, tell me, what do you do for a living?
What do I do? Well, David, I co-founded a business 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. It'd be 20 years next month. Prior to that, I was also in business, so I'm a little bit of a serial entrepreneur. But I started a commercial janitorial company called Best Facility Services and ran it here for 20 years. In June of 2021, we merged and sold to the Facilities Group from Tampa, Florida. I rolled equity into the new entity. So I still have some equity in the business, but I have a successor now. So I am less active in the business that I have been. And frankly, that's a little hard to get used to. But you know what? It's liberating as well. And so you find yourself in a situation where you're wondering what the next steps are and what the next obstacles will be to tackle and where your call is going to take you next. In addition to that, Julie and I are investors in real estate. We have some single family homes, are involved with many multifamily syndications. And we just enjoy that path and have enjoyed that up to this point. We're still learning and still growing. And finally, I have a little ranch in Oklahoma where I'm learning to grow muscadine grapes. And we'll see what happens with that. The way I see it is if these things just stay alive, I'll be shocked. But because I'm not known for my horticultural prowess. But it's so much fun and it's so peaceful there. And I'm just so enormously grateful to be able to have a place like that as an outlet that I can share with friends and other people. So that's kind of the thumbnail of what I'm doing today and kind of how I got here.
What a blessed life, Mark. And you're a true example of the blessings of the Lord when you are actually abiding in Him. And I'm saying that because a lot of Christianity today have two extremes. One of them is you have to be poor in order to be saved. And the other one is you have to be rich in order to be saved. And it's
Yeah.
like they oppose each other, and the matter of fact is that God wants us to be prosperous and blessed, but He will not do it if that's going to cause our souls to be in hell for all eternity. Because I see a lot of people, a lot of business owners, Christian business owners, that they don't make it past certain level, or they struggle every time, and they wonder why. And I have experienced both lack and abundance.
Mhm.
And when I was in lack, I did everything I could to get into abundance, to the point that I made money my idol.
Yeah.
And I forgot about my faith. And then the Lord had to strike me down and almost get rid of all the wealth, in order for me to realize that it's Him who provides the wealth and the strategies and the opportunities. And
Sure.
now I'm back in abundance.
Yeah.
So, and I keep telling people that, a lot of people that are suffering financially, and I tell them, if you're doing everything you need to do, you have to check your heart, because a lot of the times the Lord will not bless you abundantly if He knows that your ego is still not in check. So that if you get abundantly blessed, your ego is going to grow with that, and sure, you'll go to hell by doing that. Right?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack and a lot of truth in what you just said. And I look at it sometimes as sometimes it seems like a subtle difference between happiness and fulfillment. The Constitution preamble, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, in the pursuit of happiness, I think people have to take the perspective: happiness is temporal. Happiness comes and goes. It's really the pursuit of fulfillment that provides the joy. And there are ups and downs involved with getting there. There are setbacks. Sometimes you have doubts. However, a fulfilling life is one approached with humility, at least in my experience. Humility does present an opportunity to have gratitude. And with me, it's through gratitude that optimism is sustainable. And so it's really, to me, it's about a pursuit of fulfillment. And what's interesting about it is usually happiness is thrown in along with the deal. But you're right. It's the little idols, the little things that people pursue to think that, well, I'll be perceived a certain way if I have this, or if I earn a certain amount of money. It's not really, it shouldn't be about how we're perceived. It should be how we can be useful to other people. We're just put here to help others.
True. And the scripture says that we come naked, and we are going to live naked the same way that we came. And you don't have to read the Bible to know that. You just have to look at the environment, how people die and are born, how people are born and die, right?
Yeah, there's ample evidence out there that what you just said is very true.
Mark, what a blessing to have you as an entrepreneur. And I say that because if you look at the stories of our the fathers of our faith, starting with Jesus, he was an entrepreneur. He was a contractor. He was building, houses and carpentry. Like, he was actually a general contractor. And if you look at Paul, he was a tent builder. Mm-hmm. In fact, he says, I don't need your money. He said sometimes, because they want to give him offer. He's like, I don't need your money. I have a tent business. I can make, I can do it on my own. He says, I have been in abundance, and I have been in poverty, and I have learned to be content in both. Right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And we were chatting the other night in our little Bible study, and I really liked the point that came up that Jesus was about business. He was about the business of helping other people. He was about the business of redemption, and the Great Commission, all about the business of and getting disciples, and the purpose of the whole thing is about redemption of mankind. Mm-hmm. So that resonates with people like you and I, because that's kind of how we tick. That's kind of, we have drivers, innate drivers that we just had just because we have them. I remember when I was 11, 12 years old, I couldn't figure out why I was doing it, but I'd get on my bike, I'd get a burlap bag, and I'd go digging through trash cans to get aluminum cans. And I would squash up the aluminum cans. I'd come home to my parents' house smelling like beer. And we would take the aluminum cans, and they were redeeming them for approximately 15 cents a pound. So it took quite a bunch of cans to accumulate anything of any sustenance, but I loved it because it was a program that worked. It was a program that produced. And I think if we all subscribe to the Great Commission and helping others and putting others ahead of ourselves, that's the program that works. And that's the program that produces fulfillment.
Isn't it amazing that we're built with different skill sets? Because you're completely right. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you know you are one pretty early in life, and not everybody is called to be entrepreneurs. And that's why I love the free world. When we look at USA and Canada, for example, you pretty much can do whatever you like with your life here, as long as you don't go the boundaries of the law, and the law is respected for the most part. And that allows you to really choose. Even if you don't know if you're an entrepreneur, you can always try and fail and realize that it's not for you, or try and succeed and realize that it's not for you.
No doubt about it. And well, that's another great point. I mean, just consider where we live and when we live here, the timing and all the opportunity and all the abundance that exists during our lives at this time. And consider for a minute all of eternity and all since time began, and how good we have it now. I know there are numerous problems that need to be addressed. There's no doubt about it. But the way I see it is, I am too blessed not to continue to want to do something about it. There is so much blessing that is there, and so much opportunity that is there. Then I'm not justified in just sitting around doing nothing or being content. There's always other people to help. There's always other projects to do. This is constantly being fed, and I'm constantly learning. And look how much information we have to learn from these days. Now, there's a bad side to that too. Sometimes there's a lot of bad information out there, but the point is, if we are diligent, the opportunities that exist for you and I and others that live in this day and age in the United States or Canada are practically boundless. So I consider that, it's something that I carry out of gratitude. I'm just so grateful that we can live when we live, where we live, with the opportunities and the information that's out there. It's really overwhelming.
And for sure, if you have that entrepreneurial mindset, it has never been easier to run a business nowadays, even though the competition. I'm going to tell you a little story that just happened to me. I don't know why, but starting 2024, I started to like working on land. So to give you a context, I am a tech entrepreneur, right? I run software companies. My whole life has been behind a keyboard and a monitor, and just doing relationships for sales and marketing in entrepreneurship. I didn't know how to use a screwdriver. But this year I began to want to work on land. So the first thing I told my wife is, I noticed that you guys are using the fire pit she has a ladies group. So once in a while they use the fire pit just to worship. They just have a fire and worship together. And it wasn't the best place in the house. So I told her, I'm going to make you a new patio with a new fire pit.
Nice.
I'm still hiring a contractor that I used to do before and just make sure it gets done and delegated. I thought, you know what? I want to learn how to do that. To make the long story short, I went into YouTube. I saw like 20 videos on how to make, a patio with a fire pit on a slopely hill, doing a retaining wall. And, I'm almost done. I found two kids that had no jobs. in the summer, and they're helping me out. And quickly I'm realizing that I could actually make a business out of this.
There you go.
What I've spent so far, including labor, is a tenth of what I would have paid a contractor. So everything else is markup.
There you go. I mean, see, you're living it. And the more we learn, the more we see these opportunities. And isn't it great that you're sharing the benefits with that opportunities with other people? Because the people that you hired get to benefit, the ladies group gets to benefit, you get to grow in your education, and then who knows, maybe every now and again your wife will allow you to enjoy the fire pit too. And it's a wonderful thing that opportunity breeds velocity. We have the velocity of being able to learn, share it with others, and the opportunity in itself goes to others. And you just got could be another $1 million idea. That's wonderful.
Not that I'm going to pursue it, but I'm just thinking, like, if I really wanted to, I could really turn into a business. And because I know how to analyze the marketing strategies of the competition, I know how to get better, be better, show better. So if you apply all that business acumen to anything that you want to start, you will most likely prosper.
There you go. There you go. Again, just the abundance that's there. It's just beyond, it's almost beyond comprehension. The opportunities that we have today are so wonderful.
And that's a mindset too, Mark. And when you look at the letters of the Apostle Paul, he says, think of everything that is beautiful, everything that is right, everything that is positive, everything that is worth living. And you have to renew your mind and put all this mindset every time you say, I live in a blessed world where the Lord made everything abundant, and I have what it takes to achieve that level of greatness.
That's
because
right.
if you don't talk to yourself and you don't prophesy to yourself every morning that, and you just focus on news or what's going around you, you're going to get so depressed that you won't have the energy to take the next step forward, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The stories that you tell yourself and how you talk to yourself is also mission critical. So you bring up a great point of guarding your mind, of what gets into your mind to begin with, because we want the good stuff. We want the inspiring stuff. And we also want to be pulled forward by that joy and fulfillment of being able to be useful to other people. And there's so much there, but yes, that's an excellent point. Is just being able to have that mindset and guard your mind so you can maintain that mindset.
Mark, what was your first experience with business? Like, how did you ever get a job in your life, or you were right into business right away? How was your story?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess my first business was collecting beer cans, as I said. But honestly, no, my parents believed in education. My mother was a teacher, my father, a physician, and they took the path of education to be able to accelerate beyond what the generation prior to them was able to accomplish. And therefore, of course, it's natural that they wanted for me the same thing. They wanted for me to be able to accelerate beyond and continue the momentum going forward. And my personal belief is that is a true statement. However, I will make a distinction between academic education and experiential education. And it just turns out I'm an experiential learner. I can read a book. I can do this and I can do that. I'm not that great of a test taker. But the situation was I made it through college, and I tried to honor their intentions and their wishes for my life. So I had a finance degree, made it through college, got a finance degree. Didn't really like college. The main reason I got a finance degree is because a good friend of mine also had that major, and I wanted to hang out with him.
That's awesome.
So I did what any, aspiring college student would do once he finally gets his sheepskin, is I hit the road and I started asking for a job. Well, I lived in a suburb of Fort Worth at the time, but I ended up landing a job in Irving, which is close to Dallas. So I started working for this mortgage company, It didn't take me long to realize that the corporate world, the larger corporate world, was not to my liking. There were politics, there were all kinds of things that I found rather disturbing. And I couldn't have ever known it until I lived it. But I was hired by a friend of mine to work in the medical supplies industry in the accounting department. I did that for a while. Then it was during then that I got married. Then the timeline continues. That company was bought by another medical company. I was imported. My job survived. But by that time, David, I'd pretty much figured out that if I don't at least try to do my own business, then I'm really, really going to regret it. So it was that fear of regret that got me off the dime. Plus, Julie was doing so well in her career at the time. My wife is brilliant in many aspects. She was a CPA and working in as a treasurer for an up and growing company. So we had that financial cushion. Anyway, I bought my first franchise in '95. I went to work there, realized this is very, very hard to do. And if I got paid at all, I got paid last. And it took a lot of work just to get to the point where I could pay the bills and keep my head, even and just tread water. So then, lo and behold, we get pregnant with a child, and lo and behold, life changes. But I had a failed acquisition. I tried to acquire a larger printing company. Everything was in alignment. I had a holding company backing me up, but the acquisition ultimately failed. So I ended up merging with another franchise, and I'll try to say this story quickly. I did not realize that franchise was underwater, so I jumped out of the frying pan into the fire. Wow. Yeah, I went from bad to worse. It was just going straight downhill. Finally, the bank comes, closes the doors. We can't even get in. So there I am. I have no job. I have no income. I was able to dispose of the assets of my original franchise to the point we could pay our car off. So there you go. That was my big win for my first entrepreneurial venture. We actually paid off a car.
And how many years did you invest in that?
Well, 95 is when I began, October of 95. It was 2.5 years into it when I was pursuing that acquisition. That occupied my attention and energy to the point that my business started to slide. And then when the acquisition failed, I thought, well, I've got to merge in with this other one to see if we can make it together. I didn't realize they were financially upside down. So this all happened. And then finally, when it went bankrupt, there was another company that hired me to be in sales for printing services, which is the franchise that I was in, Minuteman Press. So I went to work for them just to be able to get a paycheck. They were good people. I'm grateful for that opportunity. Got hired by another printing company, a little higher end. And then a friend of mine, out of the blue, I had gone to church with him. We played in a Christian rock band together.
Nice.
And he calls me out of the blue and say, hey, Mark, there's this janitorial thing that I've been doing for a while, but somebody bought it. They turned the model upside down and it's not working anymore. Would you like to talk about going into the janitorial business? Well, it probably hit me similar in a way that it would hit you, that probably anything at that point is worth considering. So I said, sure, let's do it. So within probably 3 months, we had formed the company. I used my prior company to pull it in. I put in seed capital, a whole $4,000 the company. I knew that it wasn't going to pay me for a while because it was going to take a time for us to bootstrap and build the company. But that was the approach that I had taken. I was determined not to borrow a lot of money to put financial stress on my wife and I. Anyhow, it started to get traction and we started hiring people. And 2 years later, I finally can afford to pay me to get into the company. Well, it got more traction, and about 5, 6 years after that, we made the Inc. 5000 list.
Nice.
Yeah, and then the next year we did it again. We were breaking records, breaking our own records, and this is what's interesting, and I would say borderline miraculous in our case. And honestly, David, in hindsight, I don't even know how I did it. That $4,000, yeah, there you go. Well, it wasn't me that did it. That's how I did it. That $4,000 is the only money I ever put into the company, and I never borrowed a penny. So we built our company completely out of that initial seed capital just by deferring our own payments down the road, but we never had any debt. So we ended up being debt free. Then the mergers and acquisitions people start knocking on the door. I couldn't believe how many people were interested in the little BFS. I thought, how do you even know we exist?
Right.
Well, because of the Inc. 5000 and a couple other national recognition programs, I guess we got on some list. And then the rest is history. We sold in 21 at a reasonable multiple. My partner that I went into business with, it was kind of an informal arrangement between he and I. I made sure that he was taken care of from the initial proceeds that came in so he could go do his own thing. It marked his exit from the business. I continued, and I went through my earnout period. We made 100% earnout, for which I am also very, very grateful.
You know what? That's not easy, right? That earnout process is usually 2 years, and the entrepreneur becomes so miserable that the company doesn't do that well, so they don't get the 100% earnout. So that's another blessing, right?
The blessings just keep coming, and it was still hard, and there's still elements that I didn't like, and I kind of felt myself being caught up and absorbed into a big company mindset again. I was thinking, oh my goodness, here we go again. But how do you argue with people who keep their word to you? And they did keep their word to me. So I have faith that not my final bite of the apple, if you will, they will keep their word to me there as well. It's just a different program now in my succession plan, because I'm used to being kind of the center hub of information, of decision-making, of all these things. And it's just a weird thing when you wake up and now you're something else, and you don't know how to be something else, So you wake up and you look around. I may have mentioned the other day, some days I wake up, I don't even know what day it is.
It's beautiful.
I just look around thinking, what is going on here? So that's not to say I'm not busy. I'm still quite busy with our properties, investments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're taking care of our parents. We have much more of an active role there. We have our first grandchild, so we have things going on with our family. My wife completed her master's program. She's now a certified counselor. So she's moving into that next, and I'm so immensely proud of what she's been able to accomplish. I tell everybody I put 3 ladies through a master's program, but I didn't get one.
You got the most important one. Your first 2.5 years of business failure is worth 10 times a master's program. And I tell you this from a billionaire. I was watching this interview, and this kid, he said, okay, I have $100,000. I have 2 options. I can go get an MBA or start up a business. And the billionaire told him, start up a business and lose all the money. Yep. Don't lose it on purpose. Try to make it. But if you lose all the money, you're going to get 10 times more teaching than going to get an MBA. Don't get me wrong. This is not for normal people. This is for people that want to own their own business, right?
Yep. You're absolutely right. And they have me come talk to a couple of the colleges here local, UTA and TCU. And I'm so grateful that they allow me to share my experiences with the kids. But I tell them the same thing, David. I tell them, go out and fail. If you're going to go fail now, because the education and what you learn through that experience, like you said, don't intentionally fail. But if you're going to fail now, because the intellectual property you will earn from doing that, not only there, but I think even spiritually. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that I think applies, up here as well as right down here. So I agree with you 100%. If it weren't been for those struggling years, I don't think I would have been able to make the decisions later that were productive.
Exactly, Mark. And also, there is nothing more important in your life as a person that facing hardship.
Yeah.
The troubles in life is what the Lord uses to get you to the next level.
Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, count it all joy when you're going through these difficult times, because the bigger picture is it could serve a purpose much bigger than you can see in that moment.
Mark, I have another podcast. It's a business podcast, and I keep telling people, you have to have certain type of faith in order to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't really know how you're going to pay for the electricity or do payroll, and sometimes you get so much money that you also don't know how to manage that, because people think that's not a problem, but it's actually it's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
If you are on top of a whole bunch of money and you don't do what the Lord asks you to do with that, that's the beginning of your total collapse and disaster.
Yeah, I have to agree. It takes so long to earn it, but boy, can you lose it in a hurry. So I totally understand. I totally agree. So, yeah.
Mark, in your business life, not on your first failure, because we know a bit about that, but during your main business life, what has been the most terrible situation and how did you get out of it?
Oh boy. I think probably a customer just basically stopped paying, one of our larger customers. So our cash flow was starting to hurt, and we had to make a very, very difficult decision. In the janitorial business, you have the option of being able to suspend your services. Well, if you suspend your services, there's a possibility your customer might just go out and hire another provider. But if you don't suspend your services, your cash flow gets harder and harder and harder and harder. So it took some finesse, it took some patience, and it took some humility. But ultimately, the right words were said, the right questions were asked, and they finally made restitution, and we got caught up over time. But that was very, very difficult because I didn't have cash to make payroll. I didn't have cash to pay myself. And these are probably familiar problems to a lot of entrepreneurs. But the way we got out of it was with patience and being honest with them and being transparent and just saying, I hate to say this, but matter of fact here, I know on some level you too are struggling, but unless we can get restitution on this, we cannot continue as your provider. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, it finally unraveled, and we did okay. We got through that crisis, and I could probably cite another half a dozen very similar to that. But that's how we did it, just through patience and kind of weathering the storm.
Mark, I had a very similar situation back in 2019 in one of my companies. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because in this time it was our largest client. They paid beautiful for 2-3 years, and then all of a sudden they stopped paying some of the bills, but they were paying others. But they kept asking for more people on the team, on the software consulting side, right? So very similar services companies that require people to deliver the service, right? Mm-hmm. And then at the end, I let the receivables grow to more than $1 million. Because I was lying to myself. I was thinking, if I can only give them one more month, they will pay back. And then the idea was, if I don't, I'm gonna kill my largest client, and I don't have the money anyways.
Right.
And I'm gonna have to let all these people go. And guess what? They never recovered.
Yeah.
We recovered $250,000 out of that, and the rest of the money, they went bankrupt. They just went bankrupt last year, and the Lord used that situation to get me back on my place. And I realized that every time my pride got bigger, something like this will happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I couldn't agree more. I tell everybody my first experience in business made me humble for life. I mean, I'll never forget it. I didn't anticipate going out and becoming rich in my first venture. I just had ideas that, if we do this, this will happen. And I got a good education from the market, and I got a good spiritual education at the same time about humility. So that's why I tell everybody, listen, it may look good from the outside, and I have nothing but gratitude for what we do have. But I will never forget the struggles that I went through and the lessons that were learned there. And I will never not empathize with other people who are going through the same thing. I feel your pain. I've been there, but there's hope. There's hope if you have faith.
That's why this is called anchoring hope. You have to anchor in real, true hope. And I'm telling you this because I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends that don't have any faith, or they follow other faiths, not the way, not the narrow way like you and I. And I tell you something, Mark, and this is going to close what you started with. There is nothing worse in life than reaching success at being unfulfilled. And going through those struggles, because they have gone through very similar struggles that you and I have. But now that they're at the top, they have more money than they can ever spend in their life, but they're completely empty in their heart.
Oh, I know.
There is nothing, because you know what happened to those people, and God bless their souls, and I hope that their souls get redeemed for Jesus Christ. Because what happened to those people is that money, it doesn't fulfill them anymore, because if they make another $1 million, it's the same. It doesn't matter.
No,
right?
No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think at the stage when you really take on the gratitude mindset, you just understand that money's, at the end of the day, it's just a tool, and it can be used for great things. It can be used to change people's lives. It can also be used to destroy people. So at the end of the day, we don't worship money. We worship we live and have faith in the velocity of opportunity of hope. And money is just a byproduct of that. It's just something that happens, but I kind of like in A Wonderful Life what Harry Bailey said when Clarence mentioned, in heaven we don't use money, and George says, well, it comes in useful down here, bub. And it does. So it has its application. And sure, I mean, at the end of the day, in this life, money is power, but it's how you direct that power. But no, I couldn't agree more. It's about fulfillment and hope, and that's where the joy really happens. And that's why I tried to make a distinction earlier between happiness and fulfillment.
And it's true. And like I said before, not everybody is called to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur hire beautiful people that make it happen. In fact, when you're a business owner and you have a successful exit and you get well off, it wasn't you. It was the people around you.
Oh, yeah.
And the guidance that you got from the Lord and the amount of faith that was put in you and the opportunities. If I look at my business life, regardless of how good my marketing team became, regardless how good my sales team became, a lot of the biggest accounts that counted for 80% of the wealth that we produced, they just landed in our lap.
There you go.
They were just like, hey, I'm looking for somebody. Like they will actually call us.
There you go. And the biggest account I ever earned, I just felt all of a sudden a prompting to drive off and exit and walk in and give them a business card and say, if you're ever bidding, I want to help. And that's how it happened. That's all I had to do. And I'm like, my goodness, I wish this program was repeatable. But
But it's not, and you got a prompting. That's where the Holy Spirit starts knocking and say, "Hey, go this way, go that way." But you have to be surrendered. Right?
you really have to do it, and you have to follow through and actually take action on it. And of course, I've had numerous rejections. I mean, my goodness, if we want to talk about rejections and failures, we're going to have to extend our session to about 6 months. But we can easily cover my successes in about 4 minutes. But all the times that I was told no, or all the times that I was looked at as something less than somebody just because I was in the janitorial business, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You just got to persevere and go through it, and know that there is a higher purpose and there is hope.
And remember that everything that you make in this world will stay behind. All you take is your soul with you, which means your memories, your experiences, your emotions. And that's all that really matters, right?
That's all that really matters, David. You got it right.
This morning, one of the best friends of my sister died. And she was 58 years old, around that age. I knew her since I was 15 years old. And she died this morning. And it made me realize we cannot even add one more hour to our life in this world.
No.
That's in the book of Luke. The Lord was saying, Jesus was saying, why will you worry? Why are you anxious if you cannot even add one more hour to your life existence?
Yeah.
So don't worry about the rest. Just surrender.
You're absolutely right. And I, even today, need to be reminded of that. Even today, sometimes I relearn those same lessons, but you're absolutely right.
Mark, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Sure.
Some time has passed by. I want to be respectful. Can you answer one last question before we finish the podcast, okay?
I'll try.
If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on that billboard? What would be your most impactful message to the world?
The 3 words that come to mind right off the top of my head are, yes, you can.
Amen.
Yeah, that's it. There's hope. Yes, you can.
It reminds me of the Nike slogan, right? Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it, because you can. And you know what? It's interesting. It may not turn out, your initial intention may not turn out how you thought, but that can give you a whole new idea. Just like you said earlier about the building fire pit thing, it give you a whole new idea, take you a whole new direction to take you even higher than you originally thought.
It's beautiful. Mark, thank you so much. If people like to follow you, are you guys on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm not overly active on it. And I think we have a Facebook page. About the only thing I know how to do is say happy birthday. But if I can be useful to people, number one, thank you for allowing me to be on this venue. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I love your heart. I love the way that you're bringing hope into other people's lives, and it's just a privilege to be on it. So if anybody wants to reach out, sure, LinkedIn. If I can be useful, I'm happy to be useful.
Thank you so much, Mark. God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thanks, David.
Blessings.
See you soon.
Thank you for watching another episode of Anchoring Hope, where we're shining the light in these last days and hoping for the best, because the best is in the Bible. Please share this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also check other social media for more content. And as always, remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and I love you too.